All right, hey traders, welcome to today's recap. It is Friday. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca Trade Group. So I'd like to always do a quick rundown of the week, kind of what we saw for the week. A busy week, again, headline driven as well. At this point, probably should be a little bit used to this, but it's a headline driven market as well as we had a lot of events, a lot of earnings to get through this week. Another earnings starts, I would say, do I want to say starts to die down next week? I don't know. I still think there's a lot of there are going to be a lot of interesting reports, a lot out of the software companies, the application enterprise software companies. There should be some interesting reports, but I think we start to die down a little bit in terms of some of the biggest companies that have reported. So let me just look at where we finished for the week. There's a deal that's on the tape as well. So I'll get through that. It's about 4:20, so 20 minutes after the close. IWM finished up green for the week. So did SPY. Just at the end of the day, interesting. We've been seeing these end of day rallies. So if we look at the S&P just for a minute, and then I'll move on to some more interesting things. But we finished up 7 basis points. We've kind of, I've been noticing this in some names. I don't know, maybe it's been every name, but this is what we saw at the end of the day yesterday as well. And you kind of see. I want to just go back for a minute, but I'm getting the feeling that I don't know. There's probably some buyers that are coming in, like MOC buyers. Probably some. What that means is some new money probably going into some mutual funds. Remember, mutual funds put the orders down at the close. Because that's what's NAV for mutual funds. So, it could be that people are actually, putting some money to work here, considering, this move up here at the end of the day. I don't have another reason for it. Maybe it's something else, but it seems like this has been happening now. Maybe not every day, but it happened a few days this week, and I think a couple days last week as well. So that kind of pushed us to my point. Point being is that pushed us to positive. Sectors for the week, a pretty big deviation, I would say, in U.S. sectors. The standout was aerospace and defense. Boeing helped with that. I think Raytheon was pretty strong in that group, but up 3% for the week. Software, even though a couple of names in the software space, the gaming dragged down that software ETF because they are in that ETF. They actually recovered quite nicely. I'm going to talk about a couple of those names. Really interesting. And then you had a couple of defensive areas. Utilities were up 2%. You look at the utilities chart. I was looking at that yesterday. I think in yesterday's video, very strong looking. And then on the flip side, I talked about this yesterday, so I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but the energy really gave a fake out. Right when the energy was kind of looking to kind of turn the corner and go up, they got smacked down. XOP was down 7.6% this week. Some other groups that were down, biotech did not have a great week. And steel names did not have a great week as well. So, some of these areas down well over 2%. So again, big separation in sectors. Again, goes to my testament that, that's why the S&P was flat, right? But some groups really outperformed. But I'm not someone who wants to own the spies. I want to really gonna get in there and go after the groups with momentum. But let's go back and let's just look at the chart of the S&P. And so today was kind of I did not go crazy trading today. I did not like how we started the day, but we had a nice recovery, and I have trades on for a recovery. But what we started off saying this morning was, let's see how we hold. We were coming right into, this is S&P futures that I'm looking at, but we were coming right into the top of value support. So I said, well, let's see if that holds, and we held it. So right now we're stuck in the middle between the 200-day moving average and the top of the February value area, and it's got a chance to kind of hold. And I think towards the end of the day, we started to see buyers come in option activity. I'll go over some of those trades. I just wanted to finish with the technicals. We'll look at Nasdaq as well. Nasdaq also finished up on the day. Same exact picture. And again, we went over all this pre-market, but also top of value there. And same thing in IWM, which also has held the top of value quite nicely. So I think that's, for what to kind of go on for next week. We'll see if we can bounce further on that, but where your stops are, I think, is basically the top of value. If we start to we'll go back to the S&P chart, but if we start to kind of, if some of your names and the overall market starts to kind of turn back to the downside, get through to this 2681 level in S&P futures, I think that's where I probably want to, shy away a little bit and tone down the long positions. Let's start with so what to start with. So this deal, this Nuva is a medical device company that is getting bought. And what's interesting to me, I don't own any of this Nuva. We were just joking around. I own Nunya. Um, Sorry, it was a bad Friday joke. But they're a medical device company. Interesting that we saw all this EW, which I put on a small trade today in EW because it's enough option activity for me to be curious what is going on in this thing. Let's see if there's any activity today. No, not much activity today, but this was the activity yesterday. So again, this is a review of yesterday. I covered this, but being that a medical device company is getting bought out, but this is what they did. This name obviously not was not the name. It was Nuva. But look at the action that we saw yesterday in this. So you could see some big call spreads, also big outright calls. So I'm curious enough to get involved in this name. They already reported earnings, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. You have to contend with recent highs, but it's big enough for me to. And so what did I do? I bought just a little bit of the April 180. April 200 call spread. I just followed what they did yesterday, and we'll see what happens in that name. But Nuva, and I'll see. I don't think there was any option activity today in Nuva. No, nothing today. Let's see if there's anything in the last 5 days. I know this is kind of what I like to call cherry picking. Oh, somebody new. I'm just kidding. No, there wasn't anything this week. There may have been something older than that, but let's move on. So, if you watched yesterday's video, what was the one name that I talked about at the end of the day? At the end of the video, EA Sports. So I spent a couple minutes. You have to go through. It was at the end of the video that I talked about it, and they came out with a new game. So we talked again. I like to get in front of trends. If you listen to my videos a lot, I like to be in front of those trends or be 1 or 2 days before the news. And so the news was out on this game, this Apex game, and really kind of gave this a catalyst. Closed on the absolute highs of the day. So I had a small order that I put on, and then I just added to. I like that this thing closed on the highs. I know it's always tough to buy a name after it does something like this. And you're like, oh, well, maybe if I can, if it backs up and, sure, it could come back and retest. I think that would be a great place to maybe add to a position. But for now, I mean, I like this Virgin Point of Control up here. And this name has momentum. There's been nothing going on in this name for a long time. So I know people are already comparing this Apex game to Fortnite, which I was told is really not the way to kind of look at it. But nevertheless, they have a catalyst now. So I think this thing pushes higher. That's my gut prediction. And I would be looking at that Virgin Point of Control, the big purple line up there, right around 107, 108. So that's what I'm positioned for. But man, what what a move! So what I do on days like this, because we were going over this in the trading room, is we went over. I tell you, I spent about 20 minutes going over this yesterday before this happened, in the trading room yesterday. Talking about how you can monitor how many people we're looking at on the Nintendo site. I think it's Switch is what it's called. But I brought that up yesterday. I think I brought it up in the video as well. But what I was looking at is this thing kind of pulled back around 12 o'clock today. Is it going to hold? And that's where I started to kind of get involved in the position for the new position that I put out in June. and that's perfect. You want to see the thing close on the highs, right? You want to see that it's got strength to it, so maybe it'll keep doing what it's doing. And also the 1 hour is really good to kind of to watch as well, which is what I was looking at, because sometimes just it's a little bit clearer. So it never lost. Here was the oh, there's a version point of control up here as well on the 1 hour. It looks like we got one at 98, and then one up above at 107, which again is where I'm targeting. But it's got to get through that first one. So it may digest maybe at nine, right before 100, but that's another that's another buck up. It looks like up here at 98.90. So it's something to watch. But my point was right around 12 o'clock, notice a little digestion burning off a little bit of that overbought. I mean, it's got pretty overbought here quickly. And then boom, to the moon. So really nice. And, the other group that's been holding up really well, keep saying it. I don't know what this is at the end of the day here. Hopefully that's not right. Probably a bad print, I would think, or maybe some type of swap going up at the end of the day. But really nice strength, and this thing was up 1.7%. The IGV ETF, and we saw, a lot of names. So what did I do today? I put on again, I wasn't really looking to put on a bunch of risk. I just don't do that on Fridays. But I went back into Adobe. This was a trade that I had set up earlier in the week, I think on Monday or Tuesday, and then got out of it for a nice gain. I sold a put spread, bought a call spread, and I did that, and this thing closed right on the highs today. So that's nice. In terms of option activity, because I know people like to talk about option activity. By the way, in this EA, again, I like to throw these examples out here, but not a lot of option activity the last couple days. I didn't see anybody kind of come in and buy the dip. There was, of course, some chasing today. There was definitely some calls, in the first kind of go of it. But, maybe there was this on Tuesday. Was this before earnings? What day did this report earnings? Yeah, I think that's up the day before earnings, so they probably would have lost out on this. Some cheapies back here. This was also Wednesday. This was Wednesday, sorry. Wow, they bought the 115 calls for March, but that's way far out of the money. But yeah, I don't think there was really that much. I mean, there's a couple spreads, but not anything notable. So, again, you kind of have to be on the top of your game and look at some other things going on rather than just the option activity. A lot of things move without it. So Twilio, Twilio reports next week, 212. Every single one of these orders, I think, went up against open interest. So I don't know. I mean, the thing closed on its highs, so we'll just have to check open interest on Monday. I wish you could do that on the weekend, but you can't. I mean, this is $2 million. I mean, I would think that they're taking this trade off, even though it went up on the ask side. But look at this matched open interest. This one matched open interest as well. So I didn't see anything that really. I mean, look at this one. Even the put side went up. This one again, I didn't see anything go up over the open interest. Now I think if you look at the total volume, some of them did, but in terms of the blocks, they kind of matched. So we'll see what this thing does next week. It should be, like I said, some software names are reporting next week. Should be really interesting. Other names in this group. What's the other one? Was it DBX? Also, not Dropbox. Which Dropbox is continuing to see option activity too. But I get these names confused. They keep going out to the 60 calls, which is way far up there. I don't know what they're doing with this. Kind of seems like a hedge, but they are buying some closer ones as well. Another one is the other chart that I'm thinking of, not DBX. I think it's DXC. DXC Technologies had earnings this week. This is a nice, really nice chart. It filled this gap, and could see a move back up to the 200-day moving average. You could use a stop at 64. So, what else in in this space? I mean, there was just a lot. I was looking at Salesforce. Salesforce bounced where it needed to as well, started the day lower, and completely bullish engulfing this candle. So really nice. So I'll kind of leave the video here, but you kind of see what I'm getting at. A lot of names. With the other names, Coop. Back to this. I mean, just talk about a group that's doing something different. And again, not a lot to really worry about in terms of trade. This group is a little bit more sheltered. So again, I'll continue to talk about these names and kind of position in them until they work, until they stop working. We'll see what happens with some of these names reporting earnings next week. The names I reported this week held up very, very fine, very, very good, and I was, interested to see how that was going to work out. One of them was Paycom. Another one was Zen, which I think kind of came in. Wow, Zen had a nice day today, up 4%. The name that I added yesterday was ZS. Also had a fine day today, up 1%. So nice add yesterday. Not a huge move, but that's okay. Team is the other one. Team back to 52-week high. So, all right, that is it. So we'll go from there. Monday, I am doing the webinar on trading stock versus trading stock versus options. The pros and cons. I was supposed to do that this week. I just did not get a chance. It was a busy week. So we'll focus on that next week. And on Monday, again, you have to be a member for that. So go ahead and check us out. You can do that for $7.99 for a week. If I had a couple of people ask me, they're like, "Is it gonna be free?" It's you could watch it for $7.99. It's like going to see a movie, guys. All right, guys, have a great weekend, and I'll see you on Monday.